Okay, welcome to the Bayta podcast. This is the first episode, and basically in this series, I'm going to be interviewing aspirational people, successful people, and inspirational people. So a whole bunch of people, really. So I'm joined here with Michael Truckle, who I'm going to let him introduce himself.
I'm Michael Truckle. I'm studying at the University of Warwick with Bayta. Aspiring trader and entrepreneur. Got a few ideas which I'm running at the moment. Generally really trying to help others, underlying passion to help others achieve their dreams.
Sweet. So, obviously I know you well, we're quite good friends.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to know a little bit more deeper into you.
Okay.
So can you talk about, where have you come from? Were you put onto this sort of corporate aspirational role, or what's your background?
Yeah, so for me it's very strange really. My family's almost split in two, so my mum's side are very much like anti-corporates, but more about helping people.
Yeah.
And that you achieve your dreams, and it's not necessarily money, but it's helping others and getting to a goal. And then my dad's side is the corporate side, wearing a suit, going to London, working hard.
Yeah.
So that's where a mix of the two has got me to where I am, where I do enjoy the London life.
Were your parents split up?
Yeah.
They were?
Yeah.
Do you think that was because of the corporate life?
Oh, definitely, 100%,
Really?
yeah. So, and it's quite hard now because sometimes I get told not to work hard, and I speak to my dad and he'll say work harder, so it's mad.
Yeah.
So that's been a really good grounding for me, and it's made me work harder, seeing that.
Yeah.
But it's certainly got me to where I am now, and sort of enjoying the corporate side, but at the same time knowing where you've come from and helping others.
Yeah. So how close are you with your mum and dad? Who's sort of the bigger sort of impact on you?
So it's my dad 100%. So my dad works extremely hard. Really, he is pretty much my hero. As much as my mum's my mum, she doesn't really get sort of the capitalist life, the capitalism side of things.
Yeah.
You work hard, you get rewarded.
Yeah.
I guess she's very much into sort of helping others in charity, and that's great because I think, if I'm fortunate enough to be successful, that'll always be part of me to look at others and help them. But definitely my dad's my biggest inspiration.
Yeah.
And sort of any idea I can run past him.
Yeah.
So
we'll get on to the topic of helping others later on, because I know you do a lot. That's what you're about. You're about helping others. The most connected man that I know. So yeah. So I suppose more going back into your past, what were your sort of school days like, even early primary? Was it a good time, bad time? Did it shape you?
Yeah, I think the main thing is at primary, I think I was like the average student. I met a primary school friend over the Christmas holidays, and so we haven't seen each other since year 6. So we were 11, so 9 years. And at the time, we were pretty similar, and it's crazy how things go completely differently.
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate at Warwick Uni. I've got a summer internship lined up. She did very bad sort of through secondary school, went off the rails at sixth form, and things have gone totally different.
Yeah.
And I read a stat that something like 95% of 5-year-olds could become geniuses, and that's like the years after just shape you.
Yeah.
So for me, primary school was I think fairly average.
Yeah.
Secondary school, I just behaved. My mum worked
Really?
at my school, so I just had to behave. So
I
think the knock
But
on...
I was very much like that as well, in that I was just a student that worked hard, but I think I had good teachers. I connected with them well.
Yeah.
Especially year 10 and 11. I was, I probably steered into the sort of direction that I've gone to now through some really impactful teachers. And, and doing some cool things. But yeah, sorry.
So when I think the big change was when I was at sixth form. I didn't do too great at my GCSEs, mainly because I got a twin and he beaten me, and we bet on each GCSE, so I lost a lot of money. So, but then at sixth form, it's two things. First of all, and it's so cliche, but I came across LinkedIn, and the reason for that is it showed me I could pretty much talk to almost anyone who I aspired to, and I didn't find it stalkerish. I didn't find a problem if you wanted to meet up. Huge sort of. It was really good. And the other thing is I got the idea of doing that outrageous thing. And when I say that, it's doing the things people 2 or 3 years ahead of you are doing. So I was going to university courses for investment banking. I was trying to meet people on LinkedIn. I was going to networking events, stuff which, a lot of people at school laughed at. But what's quite funny is around end of sixth form, beginning of first year, people start to realise actually
this guy switched
that was all part of a plan, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So sixth form was really good years, probably the best years of my life.
Really?
Absolutely loved it. Yeah, absolutely loved it.
Because for me, it was a slog of, I need to remember this. So I'm remembering economics, maths, business. That's all I'm doing. I'm just reading a textbook, rewriting it in the exam, and this is all to get into uni. It was great. Like, I had great time with friends and things like that, but like the actual content and things like that, I don't know. Like, school, I think, was my like pinnacle, I guess. But
yeah, no, I mean, for me, sixth form was good, and there's some good resources. I would go in early. I'd use the whiteboards, get up, look like what's going on in the markets.
Yeah.
Really, absolutely loved it.
I remember doing that as well, but I don't think I stuck to it as much.
No, absolutely loved it. And the thing is, I think at that age I started to learn about sort of work-life balance, because I did do some mad hours, and it's the first taste of exhaustion I got, which not many people probably get to go through. But just seeing sort of how much your body can take until you are like sick, or you hear a lot of people like really struggling. And so,
do you think that's healthy though?
Not at all. Not at all.
No.
Like, it was a huge lesson for me. Like, listen to yourself.
Okay, so but it was the learning part.
It was the point where I thought I could go without sleep, and you soon realise you can't. But yeah, so sixth form was really good, and I'm fortunate to get into Warwick, really. Yeah. And so here I am.
Yeah. So, you know, anything else about your secondary school? Like, do you have any impactful people, like, you know, that sort of steered you apart? I suppose your dad as well. Yeah. Any teachers, or was it, you know, YouTubers, people online, LinkedIn, I guess? Like.
Yeah, definitely. So I'd say the main thing is, as a teacher at school who was really positive, and I think that was so important. He made it clear to me, and we hear more of it now, but he made it clear to me that, you know, sort of treat every day as your last. And he was probably the happiest guy I've ever met. He did have an army background, so he's been on the front line and stuff, and it was fascinating to see his take on life. So that changed me a lot. The other thing, and I think it's probably my biggest inspiration, would have been beginning of first year. I met a polo player.
First year work,
I met a polo player, and he's very busy, and he was happy for me to have a phone call with him. I eventually ended up working for him, playing polo with him, and the main thing he's my inspiration is because he's got this skill of making everyone feel like he's got loads of time for them.
Really?
And yet once I get to know him better and I see how busy he is, I think, how does he do that? But you could sit down with someone and you think, he has got all the time in the world for you. Yeah. And if that's one thing I could nail, that's what I really want to try and work towards now.
I think, you know, I can speak personally, like, from when I first met you in first year. My first impressions of you, like, if I'm honest, like, I didn't know what to expect. I couldn't tell if what you were doing was a facade, you know.
Okay.
I see a guy coming to lectures in, you know, not full suits, but, you know, dressed
Very
up
smart,
nice, shaking everyone's hand. I was thinking, is this some sort of facade? Are you just kind of playing it off? But, you know, there's actually genuine value that you're trying to give to people, and you know, I quickly came to realize that. So I'm sorry for judging like first.
So do you know I think in one of my first few, I think it was term 2 of year 1, I decided to start dressing well. And a lot of people say, why are you so formal? And it's because I was setting up a property business with my twin brother, and one of the guys who did a lecture, it was like a guest speaker. He had done a lot of property work. He raised something like $4 million from Lehman Brothers 2 weeks before he went bust, or some crazy stat like that. And what I'm getting at is he'd done quite a lot, and he was like almost the perfect angel investor if we were looking for one. Now the point is, that day I played squash, I was in a tracksuit, I wanted to go and meet him. I did meet him, but I thought if only I was wearing something smarter, the first impression would be so much better. And so that's why, being in the business school specifically, I've started to dress a little bit better, because you meet people who actually have done industry, been successful, and decided actually now I just want to give back, but are still nonetheless very influential. So that's sort of the underlying reason behind it.
Behind the suit, the suit. Now you all know.
Exactly, So that's the reason why.
So I suppose we go on from, we talked about your sort of earlier life. Do you want to talk about what you're up to now? Actually, I suppose quickly before we go on, can you talk more about that business, the property business?
Yeah, so it's very much early stages. So like a lot of students, been through the pain of getting accommodation at Warwick, realised that there's quite a big demand for Leamington, not necessarily enough houses. And it was from a business planning module I realised there's a lot of landlords, but they want to rent to families rather than students. And coming from an insurance background with my father, the idea was we set up like a property management company, which is nothing new, so we do all the work for the landlords and take a fee, but we almost take on the risk as well of students. So we will let it to students, and so we get more rent, but obviously if they smash up the place, we are like the insurer, we have to replace it back to its normal condition. So at the moment it's something I've very much actually moved on to a couple of other ideas, but I've got it, I've built a website for it, we've got a few things in place. So
did you, building the website for example, was that from scratch, your knowledge?
So it was very much trying to keep overheads as low as possible. So learned a bit of WordPress. I had a friend who could host it and just sort of went from there. So that's very much sort of going on at the moment. But now my focus is more towards a couple of other ideas which I'm trying to pursue.
Awesome. And so, from starting a business, the process, I've been in a similar sort of situation. The amount that you learn is remarkable. Like you can't learn it unless you're actually in there doing it, right? You can only do so much theory and planning.
Definitely.
What are the biggest takeaways and maybe specific skills that you've learned from starting it? Yeah,
I think the number one is what my brother loves to call analysis paralysis. And it's where you analyse things too much. Because that's me. I want to get everything in place. I want spreadsheets. I want budgeting. I want everything to be on track. Project management, you name it. I want every metric possible. And it gets to the point where my brother will just say, just do it, just do it, and you'll probably learn, like you said, you'll probably learn more by doing it.
You've got to pivot as you go, man.
And that's the biggest takeaway. I think once you've got an idea, and for me it's been natural, once I've got a good idea, I'm ready to go with it. And I think that's, especially from trading on the stock market, I have that gut feeling. And I think you've just got to go with it, and you'll be able to work out if it works or not throughout later on.
So let's move on from that then, and talk about, you just mentioned it, the stock market. Let's talk about your trading. When did that start? And can you talk about, you don't have to give us specific numbers, but can you talk about, when you actually sort of vested money into it?
Yeah, definitely. So I think I've had quite a strange upbringing in the sense that when I was 11 or 12, I wanted to save up for a watch. And it sounds mad.
Okay.
But I see this watch, it's called a Breitling Emergency, costs about £3,000-4,000.
Yeah.
And the idea is it had this thing you pull out of the watch and a helicopter will come and get you. It's no lies.
Really?
It's an SOS watch essentially.
Oh, okay, I see what you mean. Yeah. Like a smoke or something like that. Or...
Yeah, it sends out a signal.
Oh, a signal.
And
okay.
It doesn't matter where you are, but someone will come and save you. And which is incredible. And I thought, that is the nearest I'm ever going to get to James Bond, right? So I'm going to save up for that. So up until about 16, I saved up for it. And I got to 16, I was very fortunate at that time. My father passed down his watch to me. And I sort of didn't really need it as such, so I thought, I'll invest in the stock market instead. So everything I saved, around £3,000, put into the stock market. And it bought into Tesco's when they had their accounting scandal.
So was this just after or before?
Just after.
Okay, just after. So
it was very naive.
When it was really low.
Yeah, it's just.
And was this? I can't remember. Was the accounting scandal? Was that before or after horse meat?
I expect before. I think. I know it was October 2014.
Okay.
Was the accounting scandal? So I think it was before. So it was very naive, but I just took a view that they will bounce back. They're a FTSE 100 firm. You got at the time.
You go to Tesco's every day.
Yeah, they're like 31% market share, so they're going to be fine. Anyway, since then, made money from them, and I basically got riskier and riskier until I was going in companies where they're swinging up and down like 10% a day. And next two of them went great, and I remember it was amazing, and then I got really badly burnt on one. And I lost pretty much about half of my money. I think I lost £1,400.
In what sort of space of time was that?
Oh, like a few weeks. But one of the days I lost £1,000 in one morning. At 16.
Do you remember what happened? Like, what was going on that made it drop?
Yeah, so it was a mining company, very small mining company. They got a license to mine in, I think I'm going to say Russia. And they basically come across and said there was like millions of barrels of oil, or if not billions, a huge amount. So share price absolutely spiked. It went up, I think, 5 times. The problem was, at the top, they came out and admitted they didn't even have the capital to build a road to where they needed to mine, which is a huge nightmare. So share price plummeted. And I won't lie, I cried on that morning. I was 16, I lost £1,000. It was hugely upsetting. So I learned a lot from that and went back to more safe companies. Traded them till last summer.
Was this more, so is your strategy, going back to the safer companies, it's more of an investment strategy? Because I think investment and trading is very, very different, right? Trading, you're trying to get market arbitrages and discrepancies of prices where the market's not correctly priced it, right? And investing, you believe in the company in the long term.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, it's probably a bit of the two. With the smaller companies, it's more trading, and sometimes even day trading. And it's more reading the charts, where's it going to go next? Investing, which I have done, and I think a great example is EasyJet, for example. I invested in them in the beginning of 2017. They were further ahead than all the other airlines with their Brexit strategy. I thought they were a British Airways owner called IAG, and Ryanair had bounced back a lot from Brexit. EasyJet hadn't. And for me, the strategy seemed really good. Out of all the airlines, EasyJet hasn't had any problems in the media. Ryanair had staff problems. British Airways had the IT shutdown where flights were cancelled. EasyJet, touch wood, have been really safe. And so that was more of a long-term investment. I see value here. So yeah, but ultimately traded until last summer. I went into a very risky company, but I did a lot of research. Again, this is where I knew something was taking off here, because I did like 2 all-nighters in a row. And it sounds ridiculous, but I just wanted to get ideas down. I just had newspaper and I pinned it to my walls, and it meant I could just write wherever I needed to write. And I got every idea down, and I actually doubled, and I was very fortunate. And what I learnt from that is the emotional side, because I did sell out and then bought back in and sold out, and ultimately I still made a profit, but nowhere near as much as I would have initially done. But what is the biggest benefit to me is not necessarily the money, but knowing that you've had an idea and it's pulled off. Because a lot of people think you're lucky. It's more, no, I've worked 42 hours straight on this.
The two all-nighters,
This has paid off. I've called it right. You know, that's the better feeling. So that's sort of where it's gone.
I mean, we spoke about it, I don't know when, a few days ago, but like the emotions of trading. Because I went through a phase where I was reading books on investing, trading, swing trading, going to seminars, going to conferences, right? And I gave it a go. I put, not $3,000, but, I had a part-time job. I put 250 quid or 300 quid in spread betting and tried it. And all the strategies I'd learned, even they weren't even that complex, but regardless, you should be able to do something and stick to it. So all about stop losses, making sure that you can maximize your profits. It just went out the window, right? If I saw a position was down £17 on the day, right? Which for me, out of my £300 account was a lot, I earned £4.50 in an hour. So to lose that in a morning, I'd be like, oh, I've got to cut it, or whatever. When actually my strategy says, no, look, your maximum loss here is 30 and you're cashing out of 300. My brain just didn't tick like that. My emotions, like I would go into college, I remember, on my app, reading the news as well, and then going through it and then just feeling absolutely buzzed that I'm £5 up, and then come back later on in the day and I'm £17 down, and I'm just like, nah, and that's a real thing. If you are looking to get into trading, you're going up against big corporate banks that are trading with algorithms. They're trading in massive blocks, and as a retail trader, you are up against it, right? But that doesn't mean you can't do it. You just have to put in the work, and emotions. That's the biggest thing. Psychology.
Definitely.
You've got to be a robot.
I think that the main thing is, if you're thinking of a position, there's websites you can go on like Short Tracker, and it shows what the biggest hedge funds are going short on, so what they are betting on going down. So Debenhams is a retailer in a lot of trouble. We've seen a lot of retailers having problems at the moment. Debenhams, for example, you wouldn't want to buy now because loads of hedge funds are going short, and as knowledgeable as most of us might be, they've probably got it more right than we do. So that's just an example to take a look at.
But what do you think as well, just like, we won't touch on it too long, but like hedge funds themselves, do you think, the portfolio managers, they don't actually, from what we've seen, I mean, just in our finance module last year, the hedge funds, they don't really beat the market that much, right? And managers take a massive cut. What's your sort of thought on this?
It's an interesting one, because you've got your active investments and your passive. So your active is with the hedge fund managers, and passive is following the FTSE 100, or it could be a basket of indexes. And passive have been doing better than active. So basically, a lot of people saying, why use hedge fund managers? It does seem absolutely mad, because especially we're in a time where markets are just rising. So if anything, hedge funds should be doing great. They should be doing really well. A lot of managers have said to me, anyone can make money in the last few years, and I'm increasingly aware, because I've made money on the stock market. Everything's been going up. So I think it's a really tricky one. I mean, obviously they're good at what they do, but they're not providing sort of well-beating returns. And whether that's because of what's happened at 2008 and where, if we've ever really recovered, could be a point. What I will say is I never believe that the stock market is luck. And a lot of people say it is, or it's a gamble. And my response is, look at a company called Renaissance Technologies. They are a hedge fund in America. They've got 130 people work for them, 90 of PhDs. No traders, all they are researchers, mathematicians and physicists. And they've, on average, since I think 88, had a 40% annual return. And like 10 out of the 30 or 40 years have been 100% returns. So they're doing something right, and that's not luck when you get to that point. So, and that's my aim, obviously. That is the dream. But it's a challenging time for markets, especially with the rumours that we are expecting a recession at some point.
I was about to ask this. Your humble opinion, obviously you're not the market, but when do you think the next sort of big dip's going to come, and what's going to be your strategy for it?
Yeah, so I'm looking into that now. I'm actually looking into going to precious metals. So with silver and gold, for example, and that's something I'm really trying to work towards because they move quite closely together. But at the moment, gold compared to silver is very overvalued. So I'm looking at sort of the arbitrage between when those prices don't move together at the same time.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, they're safe havens. A lot of people go in them.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that would definitely be.
But in a declining economy, that makes sense, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think really at the moment, what's going to be the next sort of big downturn? I think for the UK, I think the problem is student debt. This is something which isn't put on the government's balance sheet, and it's a huge liability. And the other thing is there's rumours of the government packaging the debt together and selling it, which is identical to
the mortgage crisis, right?
Exactly. You're selling subprime loans, right?
Yeah.
However, on a global scale, I think we're looking at more of it. We're just growing too quickly. Like we've seen with the US, where they had a correction. But I think it was like Starbucks back in the 90s, or a more modern version is AO World, an online electronics retailer.
Yeah.
Both of them two, at their respective time periods, their share price collapsed because they grew too quickly, just too fast and not really efficient.
Yeah.
And I think we could be doing that. I think we're growing so quickly, and I think, are we necessarily justifying it? And I think at some point it could all come down.
Come down.
Yeah.
So keep an eye on that.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I guess we'll try and move on from the trading stuff now, but just quickly to anyone like watching and listening, give us the best resources that you use for trading, whether it's your trading platform, some websites for research.
Definitely.
Just, yeah.
So Google Finance for charts, or Yahoo Finance, one of the two, really good for charts. I would say as a broker to trade with, there's one called DeGiro, or DeGiro, D-E-G-I-R-O. Yep. Most trading houses cost you £12.50 to buy and sell. They charge £1.75.
Yeah.
So you can start with much less.
Yeah.
And the share price doesn't have to go up as much to break even.
Yeah.
The main bit of advice is a website called London Southeast. Type in any share price, go onto it. There's a button which will say like share chat or share forum, and it's all other investors talking about what the stock price is doing. So if you don't understand why a share price has moved why it has, that will show it.
Go have a
There are some idiots on there, but there's some absolute experts on
Yeah.
there, and you can take away a huge amount. So
Take everything with a pinch of salt though, right?
Yeah. But London Southeast
London
is
Southeast.
fantastic.
Awesome, sweet. So those are sort of
Yeah.
key resources.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so we'll move on now. And obviously, to anyone that knows you, they know Michael Truckle as the king of networking, right? So
Wow.
I want to talk about maybe some advice that you can give. And I've experienced this just in that way. Okay, all right. Sorry about that. So yeah, we're talking about networking.
Yeah.
What's, and that's what I was going to say. In these past few weeks, I've done more networking than I have probably like in the majority of my life.
Okay.
And I think, after we sat down, had a chat for lunch, and it made me realize, stay in contact with everyone and go up, shake someone's hand, and you never know where it's gone.
Yeah.
Potentially, for Warwick entrepreneurs, the student society that I'm in, I've already got speakers planned up for next year. Next year's summit, which last year I wouldn't have done before. So you've had that impact on me as well. But what do you think is successful networking for students like us when we don't actually have much leverage over anyone, right?
Yeah.
What can you do to get in someone's DMs?
Yeah, well, I think that's a great question as well, because so many times you'll network and then someone will actually ask you, why should I speak to you? And you, as a student, you think, well, I don't know. There is no reason.
Yeah.
I think the main thing for me is, everyone does it. Everyone asks for email addresses or LinkedIn or phone numbers, etc., and that's great. I think it's got to be authentic. You've got to want to stay in touch with them.
Yeah.
And then you've got to stick to your word as well. So I've told people to follow a strategy to myself where, you do message people and you do stay in touch. And some people said to me, well, okay, I've messaged 100 people on LinkedIn. I've got 50 replies. But when am I going to meet them? And I say, well, you've got to find time. That's the game. I think the main thing is be brave, wait it out. Sometimes you get networking events where you could be there 15 minutes to speak to them. Be that last man waiting.
Yeah.
If they're valuable enough, they will rate that. Be the last person there and ask them to stay in touch. Likewise, if there's a group of 15, ask them, can I have your business card? Because you never know, they'll give it to you, and yes, everyone else will probably say, can I have it whilst I'm there? And it might wind them up.
Yeah.
But you want to be the person who asks rather than the one who's just asking afterwards, yeah. So, and I think the main thing for me, and I think it's so important, is is that sticking to your word. I've been at events where people do, sharpen the elbows. They do get in front of each other. They stand in front of each other. They butt
barging
in.
through. Yeah,
it's unbelievable. Especially with like the hedge fund space where it's so exclusive. And I take a view that, okay, I'll wait half an hour. I'll get their email address. But what I'm telling myself is I can promise in a year's time I'll still be in touch with them. That happened where I stayed in touch with a guy and I invited him back to the year after, to the event in the next year. And I thought, blimey, people were sort of fighting me to get in front of him, and yet I'm the last one in touch. And I think it is the long game. It's building a relationship. It's not just for work experience. And latterly now, it's more, how can I help them? And it's more...
That's a topic that I wanted to just
definitely
sort of hijack there. But
okay, sure.
What's worked for me in the world of startups, we don't have much leverage, right? And if you don't have certain skills, right, the biggest thing you can do is try and provide value to others. Yeah. Never ask for anything. Always ask how you can help. That's okay. Maybe that's what you should ask for, how you can help, right? And if you can do anything, and if you do want to meet with someone and get their time, the biggest thing, if you want to work with a company or whatever, say you will work for free just because you genuinely want to. And that has to be authentic, right? Yeah. Because you want to learn from the people, you want to gain the knowledge, which is going to be worth more than any money that you can get at that internship, right? Because eventually that investment, it goes back to that long-term investment in people.
Definitely.
Key, yeah.
Oh yeah, and I completely agree. And I think if you do something you love, you'd want to do it. You'd be happy to do it for free anyway. Yeah. So yeah, it is 100% worth doing that if you can.
I mean, I think it's difficult as well because a lot of students now, especially, jobs are so competitive, right? And, employers want to see something different. If you're genuinely passionate about something, then, if you're saying, look, I just want to come in, shadow you, ask you questions, I'll help out, I'll do boring admin work, I'll do whatever. I just want those 5 minutes in your day on your lunch break where I can ask you some questions, and those 5 minutes will probably change your life.
Definitely. And I think from a corporate perspective, I did a spring week, and at the bank I was at, my program was a bit misinformed in the sense that I didn't have like a buddy and a director as I was meant to. Yeah. So what I ended up having was a pass to get into the building, and they said all you got to do is minimum 9 till 5, but you can do what you want essentially. And I thought, wow, And so I kid you not, over a week I sat with about 100 different traders on different desks, and ultimately I just wanted to help every single one because if they will then put a good word in for you, even if 10% put a good word in for me, it will help me so much in terms of converting it. Yeah. But I think, at the time I said, look, I don't know much about trading, but if I can ever help you now, 6 months, a year, 10 years down the line, then message me because I won't forget. Do message me and I'll be there. Yeah, that's good. I think, that's pretty solid advice. That's the view I take because I acknowledge, like you said, we can't always help people now, but and if it's to students as well, sometimes there's students in like the year above who I aspire to, or people who have met up for me, and I'll say, regardless of business and work, if you just genuinely need a favour, such as like you forgot something from home or you need something picked up for you, let me know. Like, we're all friends at the end of the day. We're all going towards the same goal. Yeah. I'd rather make it up to you one way or another than having to wait. So if I can, that's my aim. Always have time for someone. Yeah. Basically, make it, because you never know what that meeting will inspire you or them, and then the effects that it has. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Sweet. So we'll move on to the next topic. I'm just interested to hear, what are your personal goals? What do you want to achieve? Do you want to settle down by 30? Do you want to keep working in the city life? What's sort of your vision? Sure. So the two main ones, I've always said to my brother, so my twin and I are very close, and we say we want to have the option to retire by 30. And we say the option because we both believe if you did retire at 30, you could get pretty bored. Yeah. And we're in a time now where everyone's so busy, I think you're just used to just working and going and doing stuff. So that would be quite nice to have. The main goal for me, and when I was younger, it was very much money, I think, like a lot of people. But now it's just I want to employ people. And it's not a power thing, it's not being dependent on others. I worked at a place once, just a sports centre, and I kid you not, everyone really enjoyed what they did. And it was amazing working there. It was so much fun. It was brilliant. And that is my aim. Now, the sports centre, quite ironically, has since shut down. Oh. But my aim is to recreate that culture. Yeah. Because I don't know about you, but for me, my parents don't rave about their jobs. It's a way of earning money. Yeah, exactly. So many people are like that. And I think I want people to come home and say, I've had the best day at work. I love my job. I really enjoy it. And so that's my aim now, is to try and get in a position where I can insert my own culture and employ people.
Yeah, it's not about building wealth for yourself. I mean, that comes along with it, right? But if you focus on that, you're going to fail. You need to understand people, you need to understand culture.
Yeah, I really want to get people to enjoy what they do, because we are in a society where you spend so many hours at work. It gives people access to a better life because they earn more, which is great. But what are you going through to get that money? You enjoying it, or are you really having a tough time? So that's my aim. Brilliant,
awesome. Okay, I think we're going to go on to a different section. Let me just see if I've got any other notes. I'm going to do 4 very quick fire questions that you have to answer very quickly.
Okay, I'll give it a go.
Right, so first one.
Yeah.
Biggest person who's influenced you, famous and also not famous, so someone that you know.
Gosh, that's
quick fire.
Roy Fisk, the polo player from earlier.
Okay.
Yeah.
And famous person that's influenced you?
Famous person would be... Oh, that's so tricky. I would say Ray Dalio, a hedge fund manager. Does he count as famous?
We'll take it.
Okay.
We'll take it.
Okay, we'll go with that.
Favorite artist?
As in like music or paintings?
Music.
Music. I would have to say... Oh, that's so tough.
It can be at the moment, whatever.
Taylor Swift, bit embarrassing.
Taylor Swift.
I do love a bit of Taylor Swift.
I respect it.
It is quick. I'm going to be honest.
If you could speak to 3 people, dead or alive?
I'd speak to Isaac Newton. And if I can quickly explain, not necessarily because he's a genius, but he did get bankrupted on trading a company, which is very similar to what people have done on Bitcoin. You want to look out for that. Definitely, I'd speak to him. I'd speak to Jonathan Brownlee, triathlete, world champion triathlete, the Brownlee brothers. And I would speak to one other.
Anyone?
Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street.
That's a very good choice.
I would definitely speak to him. I think there's a lot to learn from him rather than what a lot of people would think.
Have you read his books?
No, I haven't actually.
I will give you both his books.
I'd love to.
They are incredible. They're almost like the 50 Shades for the business
Really?
world, though. The amount of sexual content in it, man. But
it must be insane.
The stuff behind it, you realise actually what a scumbag he really is.
Really?
Really. I mean, the movie's great because, the scenes where he's motivating everyone, and that doesn't detract from anything. But the actual stuff behind it, where they say they're taking from the 1%, right? Yeah. The top 1%, well, they're not really. They're taking away from people's pensions, the money that they invest into their houses. Yeah. They're taking away that. And, off the back of that, he's created books, he does $50,000 seminars, he does all this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he still has, I don't know, actually, I can't say it with absolute credibility, but I don't know if he's paid off all that debt.
Yeah.
Doesn't stop him. He was a phenomenal book, great writer, and I still think he's very inspirational in what he's achieved.
Okay.
But he got deluded with his own ego and took it down the wrong way.
Have you read about Nick Leeson?
No.
So he brought down Bear Stearns Bank by trading derivatives.
Yeah.
And he actually fled to, I think, South Africa, to get away from it all.
Yeah.
And I always remember him saying, I watched a video, he says he remembers the joy he had when he heard Bear Stearns was brought down by a trader.
Yeah.
But then on the inside cover of the paper was his face and they were looking for him. Anyway, he was sent to prison, and again, he's come out and now he just does after dinner speeches. He's a millionaire. It's unbelievable. But I would love to have known his thought process as you go £1 million down and then you take on something bigger to cover that, and you take something bigger to cover that.
Yeah.
At what point do you think this has gone hugely wrong? It's
I think those 2 people would be great dinner guests.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah, that'd be fantastic.
And that's not me. Also, if there's any possibility that Jordan Belfort's listening, please don't sue me or anything. You're very inspirational. You drove me very far, but there's just some things I disagree with.
Yeah.
And links to something you said a second ago. Long, short Bitcoin.
Short.
Yeah. Yeah.
I am on the bubble side.
Yeah.
Rather than absolutely changing the future. Do you want me to explain why? Or?
Go for it. Yeah.
So for me, coming from a background with gold and silver investing, I do think that. My main dispute where I almost went mad was when I heard someone say Bitcoin is the new gold for millennials, and I thought, if North Korea drop a bomb on America, why on earth am I going to buy Bitcoin?
Yeah.
What a nightmare. You know what I mean? There's no reason why that would go up, for example.
Yeah.
And so, do you want me to carry on?
Oh, I don't know why.
That's all right.
I think maybe I've got no space. It's got 1 minute We'll just carry on from this.
Okay,
one.
sure.
Yeah. And then we'll finish on that.
Okay, cool.
So sorry. Yeah. Continue.
So you know, so I think I struggle to see its value as such.
Yeah.
Now, I think it's a great idea, and it'd be great if it can be commercialised, if consumers can use it, for example. You know, we're in a world of digital pay, and that's great, but ultimately the powers that be, you know, the government, for example, they want to have control. And I think ultimately, unless we get into a country where there is complete decentralisation, there is no government, which is a hugely interesting prospect, I can't see like Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies taking over our payment systems. I
think I follow a kind of similar route to that in that I don't think it can be unregulated for much longer, right? Yeah. But I am on the side that, you know, I'm slightly informed, nowhere near as some of like you guys are on blockchain technology, but I think, you know, Bitcoin's the bubble, blockchain's here to stay, right? Yeah. I think that technology is really interesting. Absolutely, yeah. Cutting out middleman and, I don't know.
Yeah. The thing is, you've really got to be able to almost like consumerize it, because you know, there's a lot, I don't think people necessarily know, there is actually like an interbank payment transfer service. It's called SWIFT. It's pretty quick. It's quicker than checks, for example. Yeah. Now, because that's not used by consumers, it's not really taken off. Yeah. You know, all right, it's got some value and they probably sell the service to the banks, but it's not massive, you know. And so I think it's got to be used by people to be able to recognise that value. And then that's when I would probably change my view on Bitcoin, etc.
Awesome. Awesome. Cool. Right. I'm going to grab this and we'll sign off on this one.
Okay, cool.
Sweet. So we've got about a minute left on there. Okay, so thank you very much for coming on, Michael. I really appreciate it. My
pleasure.
I want to take this section for you to plug anything that you want, that you've written, any of your articles or your LinkedIn or whatever.
Okay, sure.
Take it away.
So I would say, so yeah, I do write quite a bit on LinkedIn. Yeah. And the purpose of those articles, and if you have me on Facebook, etc., is just to help people. It's not necessarily a diary or a reflective report.
You're not monetizing it, right? That's what I mean. Like, it's genuine.
It's just to help people, and that's the thing. If I can help with anything, do reach out to me on LinkedIn, Facebook, email, etc. Drop me a message, and I'll do all I can to help anyone.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.